Hello and welcome to the Maiden Romance Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Bailey, and we also have my co-host here, Sab, aka SR7.
Hi, Sarah. Hello, everyone.
Hello, you alright?
Yes, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. And on today's podcast, we have a very special guest on the show, head writer and reviewer of Severn.com, Matthew Burroughs. Welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me. This is very exciting.
We're very excited to have you.
Hi, Matt.
This is only our second male guest.
Yep.
So let's get straight into the topic. On today's podcast, we're going to be talking about men reading romance, which is, I suppose, slightly different to what we've talked about before.
Yeah, it is.
The reason we wanted to talk about this is, as most people know, romance is primarily a genre aimed at women. And so we wanted to get someone on who does read romance, who is a guy. And as I know Matt quite well, I thought let's bring him on the show to talk about it, since you also review romances. So that's why we picked this subject today.
Hope I can live up to that expectation.
Oh, so I wanted to start by asking, why, as a man, do you enjoy reading romance?
Sure. So I guess it all started when I was in high school. My friends and I, we would go to what would be pub trivia, where we would go to a sports bar and have a trivia contest over drinks and all that kind of fun stuff. And we would have to kill time before that at the local bookstore next door. And for some reason, when we'd be browsing and messing around in the book sections, the romance section always drew me in, just because of how interesting and funny the dialogue was. When you just open any book up to a random section, read it out loud to whoever is passing by, and usually have a good laugh about that, and fuck off for an hour or so before it was time to head over to the pub. So that was the origin story of it, and then I kind of realized that some of these stories are kind of interesting if you really give them a chance. And eventually, when I met my now wife, and we got married and all that, I've been reading to her. That was sort of our bedtime reading. I would read what started off as sort of a cheesy piece of trash book. A lot of times it was probably more erotica than romance, but some romance would slip in there as well. But that would just be sort of our fun. It was certainly not a sexual experience by any means, but she found it entertaining and for some reason relaxing. And then that just kind of led into me reading more and more books and becoming a reviewer and hooking up with some amazing people online to help publish those things, and then connecting with authors like you guys, and that's kind of been a roller coaster the last couple of years.
Well, I can imagine. I mean, well,
That's like really cool. Like I quite like that.
I think that's quite fun, reading romance with your partner.
Oh, it's great.
I
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I don't do it as much now as I did before because of the book load and deadlines and things of that nature. But yeah, that's the most fun you can have reading is out loud doing funny voices. You can make the worst book enjoyable. Like we even did 50 Shades of Grey, and that's the worst book you could ever read, as you guys have well documented.
Yes.
But even that, you can just make everybody have a silly voice. I gave Christian a British sounding voice for no reason, and
oh my god, that's amazing.
it all it makes that just that more palatable.
Gosh. To be honest, I don't really know any guys who read romance, so this is quite refreshing.
Most that do hide it for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know why though. There's nothing.
I don't get it. It's not like it's obviously some of the plot lines are skewed towards the feminine approval, traditionally, historically speaking. But a lot of, most of these romance books, unless they're kind of old school cheesy, it's got a lot of hardcore fucking in it. Why would a guy not like
that? This is true.
I love it.
Hey man, we never said we weren't a podcast that gets to the heart of things.
true.
Well, that's true. I mean, like these days, obviously there's still lots of clean and sweet romances, but a lot of romances have hardcore fucking in them. I know mine do.
Oh, really?
Oh, really? Yes. Mine are like very explicit, and I don't care who knows that. But no longer embarrassed. Yeah, I don't actually understand the kind of stigma behind men reading romance. I'm like, why wouldn't a guy want to read like about that? But also, I think there's a lot of kind of stigma because it is a female thing to read romance, and I know that men don't like to be seen as feminine, which yeah, less said about that the better.
There's a couple other things you could consider, though. I mean,
Yeah,
a lot of and even today, a lot of the covers are very, traditionally handsome, oiled up, six-pack abs men,
that's
very
true.
blazing on the cover. And if you're, taking that off the bookshelf and skipping to the register, that could, a less willed person might question that. But
I suppose, but in the day and age of digital publishing, there's less need for physical bookstores. If you don't want to buy it in there, you can go and buy it on Kindle or other stores. We don't endorse any. We're not endorsing here, but I think there just needs to be less of this kind of stigma. Like, I mean, I even wrote a man who in one of my books who likes to read romance, but just to do my bit for like encouraging men to be reading it, because also like to me, I'm like, well, you could learn a lot from reading romance about what women actually enjoy.
It's true.
Not to say that all romances are realistic. I mean, I wouldn't endorse people taking the advice from my books of how to behave as a man.
fucking hell.
But however, yeah, Sab's laughing because she knows. You both know. However, like there are a lot of romances which do portray like appropriate behavior, and also, women. Women like sex, and reading the sex in these books might give them some tips. I don't know. Not that all of it is realistic, I have to say. Some sex scenes are not realistic, and that annoys me. But hey, man, if you want to learn about, what women like, read romance. That's what I say.
Yeah, I actually can't say that I've read any romance books written by men. I don't know why that is. It's not that. I mean, do you know what? I think I only came across one just by random, and I was thinking, oh, you write romance, but then never thought to purchase it. But I might have to.
I read one, and I wasn't very I wasn't very impressed, but not because it was bad or anything like that. I really didn't like the fact that they self-inserted themselves into the book.
Oh, wow.
Ew.
So and it was done in this like really kind of subtle way, but they basically like publicized their own book inside their book, and I was just like, no, I'm not having that.
Ugh.
And also, I wasn't a big fan of the character. I actually hated the man he wrote. I really did. I was like, this guy's just too. You know me. I love anti-heroes, but this guy was just not redeemable at all, and I found nothing nice about him. And I was just like, nah. But that is not to say that I would never read another romance written by a man. I don't have an issue with that, because I actually think that like men are capable of writing romance.
Is it just me though, in that I don't often see many?
No, it's not just you. And I think that actually men who do write romance tend to use pseudonyms or pen names, because obviously there's been controversy about that in the community a lot of the time. Yeah, but we won't go into that.
Also seems that most people with a male persona tend to skew towards the erotica side of things.
That's actually very true. I wonder why is that?
Yeah.
Well, I guess because erotica is viewed more akin to written pornography, if you will, and
that's true.
I guess it's weird that something more raw and sexual would have less stigma to be a writer for, but I guess in this slim case it would be.
That's actually really weird. I actually feel that romance gets more stigma than erotica does. Do you agree?
I certainly agree. Yeah, I don't
I do.
I don't understand it. I guess there's been more work done to legitimize erotica, and that's good. I mean, certainly it's good to have good, safe, fun practices with that. But I guess romance kind of slipped through the cracks as far as it's always been what it's been, and even as the romance writing has improved and become more realistic and sexual, that there's no one's really done the job to destigmatize that it's not just a Hallmark Channel movie. It's actually a lot more going on than that.
Well, I don't know whether I should express my opinion on why that is, but
Please do.
please do. I think that it has a lot to do with the fact that it is a genre written by women for women. And not to go on about the patriarchy and shit like that, but I think it has a lot to do with that. The fact that even in society, as we've moved on, people still kind of go, "Oh well, it's for women, so therefore it's not as legitimate as anything else." And I'm just like, that's bullshit. Like, I'm not, I don't go around calling myself a feminist or anything like that, but I believe in people having equal rights. But like, fuck, man, can we just stop with this bullshit that like something that women enjoy is like inherently trashy or gross or not good? Like, can we just, let women do what the fuck they want, read what the fuck they want, and not have it be this stigma of it's trashy? Like, I actually really don't like the word. I don't like the word that romance is trashy, and I think that therefore makes it harder for men to read it because they just see, oh well, if I'm reading this women's thing, then I'm not going to look very manly, and I'm just like, nah, no.
I agree.
That's my opinion. I don't know if anyone else. Well, obviously, Sad feels the same way.
I do. I mean, I do. I don't have much more else to say on that. But it's sad. It's disappointing.
It is, because a lot of the time romances are not like just about two people falling in love. It's about a connection, and it's human. It's falling in love is being a human, and everyone does it. Most people do. And we're writing stories about human beings. Just because they're falling in love doesn't mean that they're, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that point, to be honest.
No, I get it. Like I would love for like some of my guy friends to read romance. Like I just find it. I always kind of want to know what they think and what it is that they would find entertaining in it, because it's more than just, as you say, it's more than just two people falling in love. It's more than just sex. It's about entertainment, the plot. It's about losing yourself in a world. But
Do you ever ask your male friends or directly to read them?
I don't, because I don't know. I guess I've got one, and he started reading. One of my initial projects, and he was quite interested in my writing style, and I said to him, I do write romance, and I know that that's not your thing, but he was quite intrigued into wanting to know how my writing style was, and it's quite full on, but he was more focused around the intensity of the characters, and he wanted like the next chapter. He was quite impressed with where it was going in terms of the story. So I guess that was just one, to be honest, one friend. But I don't know if he would like read. I don't know if that's enough for him to think, oh, I wonder if all romances are like this, and then start delving into that genre. Or if it was just because he's my friend and he was just intrigued by my style. So I don't really know. I mean, I don't go around saying to my guy friends, oh, do you want to read romance, or why won't you give it a try and stuff. But yeah, it's just, yeah.
I don't think I've ever suggested it to my male friends. But then again, I know what they like, and they're not really readers.
I mean, books are for squares, so I understand.
Outside of like the book world, friends, I mean.
Oh, no. I it's just a general thing. I think there's a huge there is a huge there's a barrier between people within the writing community who are readers and writers, and then the ones who aren't, like your family members or friends. It's like two separate worlds. And I the way that I'm going off topic a little bit, but the way that I've noticed this is social media. So like when I promote stuff or talk about my stories on Facebook, which has my outsider friends,
Yeah,
there's literally like it's silence, like it's just dead, like hardly anyone. But then Twitter is like just blows up with fellow writers and readers who, they're just interested in what you want to what you've got going on, and it's like the support is different.
that's very true.
Yeah, I feel like you get more from fellow writers and readers as opposed to, I don't know, that's just my opinion though, because I can't speak for everyone else. Like someone could have like 5 friends who avidly read books and of all kinds of genres, and that's great, but I very rarely have friends who read, who chew through books like it's food. But yeah.
That's true. I don't have that many friends who do read. Like, that's really weird, actually. Outside of like my writing community, I don't really know, and my family. None of my friends are like avid readers. That's really weird.
Mm.
Where the hell did I get it from? No, I know where I got it from.
You're from a family of readers though.
Readers, right? From a family of creatives, not just
Yeah.
readers. Like my family is fully creative, like across the board. Like shit, my dad reads romance, like openly. So I know a few men who read romance, and I know 2 men who definitely read romance. And I also, the reason one of my other friends who is a writer started reading romance is because of my books.
Oh.
Well, you of course know Sean.
Oh yeah, cool.
Sean started reading romance because of me.
Ah.
I mean, it's not something he does like all the time, but the reason he started it is because he read one of my books because he was interested in my writing, obviously.
I want to know, Matt, how did you come across Sarah's book?
Oh, jeez. Sarah
Okay.
might actually know. I, for the life of me, can't think of it all of a sudden.
I do know. I put out when I was releasing Corrupt Hentai, I put out a call on Twitter saying, who wants to get an advance copy? And then I had an email from Matt, actually, going, I'll join your advance. So I sent out this book, and then, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was whoring myself out good during that time.
Yes. And then, like, I was like, okay. And then, of course, this was before we even started talking. And then, of course, he reads my book, and then, like, I get this review, and I'm like, holy shit! I mean, I'll leave the rest of that to you, because obviously reviews aren't for me, but yeah.
Yeah, and during that time, I was just trying to find a foothold with the website I'm writing for, and it's tough finding content, and I really didn't plan to be a book reviewer at all. It was going to be kind of a little segmented piece where I would make fun of a poorly written erotica story, and that's certainly not what I thought was going to happen going in, but to your stuff, of course. But it was, I started having to consider maybe we need to take some legitimate books and add them in. That's why we kind of have the Severn book club as well as my smut vault kind of melded together so that we're doing all of it at the same time. But yeah, I do remember during that time I was sending out a lot of emails to people, and very few friendships came out of that, but I'm glad ours did.
Same.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we've known each other for like almost a year and a half now, which is really crazy.
Wow. That's really cool.
I know. I was like, wow. I never thought that, like, out of a random review request that this would happen. But it's cool. cool. It's like I enjoy the fact that I have male readers, because actually, for me, I'm always like worried about how my men come across, because I don't, and to know that they actually sound like men is quite, from a man's perspective, is quite good.
You do something quite interesting, is that you make, and that you don't use this term, and nor would I, but you make people that other lesser authors would call alpha males. You make them somehow realistic. I think a less quality author would take your same characters and really fuck them up, because they're real close to the edge of being, not just obnoxious, but unbearably obnoxious, and not just questionable consent, but I'll come right out and say it. A bad author could make your characters rapists. There's a lot of real. I don't mean to get heavy on you there, but it's
it's true.
A lot of things you get real close to that I'm actually quite impressed with.
Oh, now I'm blushing. I think that's the important part when you're writing anyone, is you can, especially because obviously I write dark romance, as we know, is there is a line, and if you cross that line, people will end up hating your characters. And as Sab knows, she's the one who holds me back, I have to say.
I try, like I do try.
Well, no, you've told every time that you felt that I really crossed over the line, I've always taken it back, which is not very often, I have to say.
Yeah. You're not a loose cannon or anything.
No, like I have also read like books where it does cross lines, and I'm just like, what the fuck? I'm like, who told you this was okay? So I never want to be that author that does that completely crosses the line and goes, and people are just like, no, man, your characters are rapists, or your character is so irredeemable that I can't even with him. Like,
oh, sorry. Yeah. I was gonna say, have you ever had a reviewer say that you made them uncomfortable?
No.
Oh, well.
Well, no, I've had
my first review of yours made me uncomfortable.
Yeah. Okay, yes. I have had them, but not to the point where they stopped reading it. Like, yes, the content will make people uncomfortable. Like, it's not supposed to not make people uncomfortable. That's a lot of it I set out to write to make people uncomfortable. I know that sounds crazy, but when you're writing the darker side of humanity, you're always going to make people uncomfortable, because there's always going to be something that does cross a line with that person. But it's a line, but the line of like society's acceptability is where I try not to cross it.
Did you ever tell Sab what I did with your first book?
Oh, no.
First book I read of yours, I mean.
He read the end and with it because he was so concerned about what was going on, and then worked backwards. Yes.
Yeah, so I didn't know who you were, didn't know anything about you. We exchanged one or two emails, and then I got the copy of whatever the first Corrupt Empire title was. Betrayal. Yeah. And there's a very rough start to that. A very, very rough start to that, and it gets even rougher in the first half dozen chapters. And I got so uncomfortable. I'd never read a true dark romance before. I was like, what is everyone gonna die at this, or is this gonna be the most horrible thing I've ever read? So I just skipped all the way to the end, just swiped like crazy on the Kindle all the way down, and read the last chapter, and okay, they're still alive. I'm gonna swipe back a little bit, and okay, they're not. It's not a sex, death, rape cult. All right. Maybe I can go back to to where I left off. And I was just I was at work in the break room, just like I probably looked like a shivering mess. I was so uncomfortable about what I thought was going to happen, but never quite happened. And then I did settle down, and everything worked out. But that was a very interesting start to author's readership there.
That is just gold. That's just fantastic.
Yeah,
I probably wasn't for you at the time, but
I got over it.
About it. No, but seriously, I have encountered dark romance books where I have done the exact same thing, and because I've just been like, I cannot stand terrible endings. I can't. Like, it's just something in my soul will die. Like, every time I realize that I've invested my time into these characters only to find one of them has died at the end, or something terrible has happened. But I totally get it. I get it. But no, Sarah, you can always be guaranteed that Sarah will never really cross that line, like, severely.
Yeah.
I'm saying that with a little bit of a ... question mark at the end, because you're still writing and you improve, like, you just grow as a writer. So I'm just here.
Yes, because
to
I
write.
know why you're saying that, because you're concerned about what I'm writing at the moment. That's why.
Oh yeah, I'm a little okay. I'm a little bit concerned. Sarah keeps saying stuff to me, Ben. Sorry, Matt. Do you know why I called you Ben? Because I'm looking at your website, and I was like, I'm looking at your website, and I was crying of laughter silently because it says your mum's favorite website at the top.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah, I can call you. I can call you Ben, or I can call you Matt. But just know that I'm referring to the same person. I'll call you Matt. No, the reason.
Okay. Anyway, moving on.
I know, yeah. No, I was going to say, Sarah's writing this series at the moment, and she keeps saying things to me that is making me a little bit concerned. Like, she keeps saying, and I quote, "I think this is going to be the darkest thing I've ever written." And I'm like,
Fuck me. Yeah.
for fuck's sake. No, honestly, that is always my reaction. I'm just like, fuck, what do I have to, what's happening? So, yeah, I'm on edge, I'm not gonna lie, but
Bruv, well, I've already announced this on Twitter, on most of my social media. I'm writing about the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. I don't think that AI can write anything light-hearted in this. One of them is called Death.
yeah, but you like, your stories are light-hearted. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
No.
I'm just gonna leave it there. I'm here for it, but nervously.
Seb, at least you get the teasers with some content. I just get told, "Oh, this one's really gonna fuck you up." But wait about 9 months till it's actually out on ready for advanced review.
Yeah, Sam gets the process, so you just get the end product.
I actually consider myself really fortunate, because I think if I wasn't in on everything, I would go absolutely insane. But
You've been like throwing me out a window, actually, I think.
100%. I think when I didn't know, because I wasn't your CP when you wrote Corrupt Empire.
Yeah.
Or actually, I got chapters from you.
Yeah, you read the whole first book and you read some of the second book, and then I wrote the rest without anyone's
Right. It was the Benson siblings that I was in the dark. I had no idea what was gonna happen, and I'm not gonna lie, I was really bloody nervous. But yeah, no, I know what it's like, and but it doesn't get any easier being Sarah's CP. I always get excited, but at the same time, I'm just like,
what kind of shit is Sarah going to throw at me now?
yeah.
It must be a really weird thing to know a writer and know that they're writing something and then not actually get to see it until right at the end product.
Yeah, it's a real bitch, I tell you.
That's true. Because actually, I on occasion send Matt snippets of these random parts of these books, and he's just like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's this book."
Yeah, of course, I could be actively reading a book, 5 books before that, and I haven't even met the tertiary character it takes to set up this person. But but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's very interesting.
It's usually the sexy bits. Let's just put that out there.
Yeah, for some reason you feel.
For some reason, hey man, I know what you're here for.
I need to read the review for Our Darkest Hour though. That's what I need to do.
Yeah, you do, because that one I like. I enjoy. In fact, that all most of I have regular reviews, but I always enjoy reading Matt's reviews the most. I think just because of the thought that goes into them, like because obviously you're writing for like a proper website, so I understand. But I always find like new insights into my books from reading his review.
Yeah, I think what helps me is I'm not really a reader. I'm not without the reviewing. I'm typically not a book reader. I'll read something if it really, really captures my interest, but I'm not an avid or voracious or whatever adjectives the community uses. I'm probably
Yeah.
of the reviewers that publish reviews regularly, I probably read the least amount of content. And I don't know. I've always I hated reading when I was a kid. I don't really know why it slowly got tolerable and then became enjoyable, but I don't know. Maybe that type of insight helps me because I don't attack these articles like I'm a reader.
Well, that's
I can
good.
understand that, and that's what brings a different viewpoint. Like that's what I think. It's like you don't talk. There's less like because when I write reviews, I write about my own feelings on them, whereas I don't ever really. Well, you do write your feelings, but at the same time, it's more about the book content as opposed to your feelings on the book content. Am I making any sense?
Yeah, I mean it's not. I'm not one to, especially with my background of reviewing a lot of erotica. I don't critique punctuation that much. Proper
No,
use of prose doesn't. I might not even notice if there's a problem. A lot.
no.
It's really about what the book is trying to say and how the sexual organs hook together and that sort of thing.
Well, I suppose when you're reading erotica,
It's too bad it's in video. I just pantomimed that with my hand as I was talking.
yeah, I can imagine. Probably good thing we don't do video when we're doing these. I think it would be too distracting.
Do you know what? I've thought about it a couple times. I think we would be.
Yeah.
You guys would be really good on YouTube, I think.
Oh,
God, no.
no.
Bad enough time actually just like listening to my voice all the time. I don't want to see my face.
I don't like my voice, so I never listen to these episodes once they've been released. No. I don't even listen to my voice notes once I've sent them. You know when like you send a voice note on WhatsApp and then everyone's sending voice notes and then all of a sudden yours plays automatically?
Yes.
I literally throw my phone across the room. I just can't bear it.
So that means you don't hear all the funny editing Sarah does to your voice on the podcast.
I can imagine she does this, but I mean, we still have listeners, so she must be doing something great. So
I promise you, I do not do any funny editing like that.
I mean, it's fine. It's cool.
It's more like editing out long pauses and coughs, which is really boring. I'm just being honest here, guys. I don't really care what people know about the behind the scenes aspect of the Real Romance podcast. We do this for fun, and apparently people find it entertaining and learn stuff from it. And I'm just like, me and Sab are just having fun and being ourselves. Hey, man, that you heard it here first. We don't take this very seriously. No, I'm joking. We do take it seriously.
Sarah, stop talking. Doing right now.
I don't know. I think we've lost the thread of what we were talking about.
Well, I can say that I've finished reading Our Darkest Hour review by Matt, and it's really lovely. I see what you mean. It's really nice. It's well written. It's great. Like you're a great reviewer, I have to say.
Oh, well, thank you.
You should read all of the reviews for my books because I'm very impressed by them.
I will.
You
and
will.
I realised I'm so sorry. I wasn't even following.
Yeah, I think we have if you look at the bottom, I think we have a Sarah Bailey tag. You should be able to see the
Yes, because all of my books get reviewed by.
That's incredible. That is amazing.
Yeah, someone might think I was obsessed. I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea there.
Hmm.
I'm saying nothing, man. But no, like, I think that we should get back onto the topic of men reading romance. I mean, what can we say to like encourage guys to read romance? What do you think would be like the I don't know.
I think the best thing to do is to it's going to sound obvious, but just start marketing towards men. You don't have to, don't make it obnoxious. Don't start, putting uh, changing covers and plots around just to fit what an author would think a male would want to read. But
Yeah,
maybe find something about like make it so that you can have a male reader identify with a male character, because it's very easy to get a female reader to identify with a female character. All of this, cisgendered, historical speaking.
yeah,
So forgive me if I fuck up pronouns or anything like that, but you can very easily market to those kind of people. I would, if I was a regular guy looking for romance, I would want to know, can I identify with the guy? Is the woman going to be someone that I would realistically want to be with? Is there maybe a pleasant backdrop? I've read a romance book that took place at a NASCAR track, and that certainly was easy to identify for someone like me. And authors
yeah,
don't need to change what they're doing, but they at least need to, if they want more open male readership, maybe skew things a little, make two different pitches, one to your female readers, one to your male readers.
it's a very good idea.
Yeah.
I think it's really difficult because we've only really got like when you're trying to sell stuff on like book websites like Amazon and stuff, we've only really got one cover that you can put on it or one blurb. And that makes it really hard because our main readership is women. So we are trying to market those things to women. So it's then therefore very difficult to then market stuff to men at the same time.
Which is bullshit because, in the the tangible world, you can certainly release two covers. I mean, I don't see why.
Yeah.
Amazon really could make an opportunity for that. They love algorithms so damn much. You could always, if I log on and see Sarah Bailey's books, there's no reason I couldn't see a different cover than when someone else logs on and sees your books.
This is true, but Amazon kind of does what they want. But I guess that I'm maybe it's just because we're like not trying to tap into that market, I guess. And I kind of go, well, we should be tapping into that market because there are a lot of men in the world. So why should we not get the romance has the biggest share of like the reader market readership in the world is romance. Most people read romance. I know a lot of people read other stuff, but that's where the money is. Let's face it. And so why are we just tapping into women? Why aren't we tapping into the male market? And then I know that a lot of other genres do interest men, and that's what they go to read. And I'm like, well, why don't we make more men readers? Like, it's a missed opportunity, in my opinion. But hey, we're just out here trying to make some a living. So I've kind of got to go with. I think that's a difficulty. It's like I want to be a pioneer, but then again, I'm still trying to make a living. So.
Well, I would postulate that you have a pretty large amount of male readers that are just hidden, that either don't want to admit it or choose not to. They're just not public about what they read. I think another big opportunity is getting those, and I don't want to use the term "in the closet" because that's not correct, but whatever those behind in the shadows, male readers, they need to come out, and we need to find a way to welcome them and get them talking, because then they're going to tell their guy friends and girlfriends and all that sort of thing, and it's going to snowball from there. Because I think the readership is, because the numbers, there has to be the number of people that read romance. There has to be at least a somewhat healthy share of male readers in there that just aren't saying that they read it.
That's very true. How do you get men to be open about it? That's the difficulty, I think. And I think that comes with making romance more, is getting rid of that label of romance is for women and romance is trashy. Like, because if you get rid of that stigma behind it, you're kind of going to get more people being open. And that's, I guess, a bigger, wider topic is, the that we won't discuss today because that's going to take forever. But I think if you kind of start to remove that stigma that romance is for women, then you start to get more people being open. And I think the men that currently are open about romance need to be more open about it, if that makes sense, because they're going to be the ones who encourage the other men in the world. Because I think that's the difficult. As women, it's really hard for us to encourage our male readers to speak out loud about it. And I think a lot of things will come from men being open about it. Does that make sense? Hopefully.
Do you think talking about sex, the sexual content more would help or hurt?
I don't know, actually. That's the difficulty, because I don't know that all men read romance because they want to read sex. Like, I think I think that's... Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one, because you never really know what it is that they go for. You could have a guy who's like a massive, like hopeless romantic, who absolutely loves the pillow talk and the banter. It's always going to be it's vague. You never know.
I think that's the problem. Unless you start to do market research about men and what they want to read in romance, you're not going to find that out. And that's another difficulty, is how the hell do we even do that? Wow, this is getting into like deep, man. But it's true. How are we supposed to, tap into that market? Like, if we don't...
And there's got to be a conversation to be had.
Yeah, there's got to be a conversation, and I actually think that it's very different. And I've started to try and have that conversation, like as we're doing this podcast, is that, why aren't we expanding? Like, we have a market, yes, great. We have an established market of women, but that doesn't mean that we should be complacent and say, okay, well, we're only ever going to market this to women. Like, Jesus Christ! I mean, we now live in a world where we write all sorts of different kind of romances, like, and you write male romances, and actually, if you look at the readership for that is women, and I'm like, why?
Do you not find that? Have you ever considered that maybe guys feel intimidated or out of place by delving into romance? Like, maybe they feel, let's say a reader was to jump on Writer's Wheel and in the romance landia world, do you think maybe they would feel overwhelmed or out of place or targeted? I know it sounds a little bit silly and far-fetched, but it's I think again it's kind of like this whole idea that I've noticed on social media, where there's kind of like groups and cliques where people feel a bit out of place if they show interest, because it's overly critical in some places, and that's something that frustrates me about the writing community as well.
It could do, but then I think that a writer Twitter and reader Twitter are two very different places, and I've never tapped into reader Twitter, so I don't know.
As far as, and not so much reader Twitter, but certainly reader Facebook is not very welcoming for men, and that's not to criticize anyone, but like, for example, a very accomplished romance author has a huge Facebook page community with thousands of people who are all, very loyal to everything this person reads, and it's almost exclusively women by design, and it would feel very intimidating for a man to come in and share his thoughts, because it would it would be, am I jamming my opinion in there by being a man? And this is sort of a place where girls want to be safe and share their own opinion about some topics that they not necessarily would want a man butting in about how they enjoy reading about romance and love and sex and that sort of thing.
I think that's very true, actually, because there's been this thing where everything's... I really don't like this term. I hate it. I hate the term mansplaining. It annoys me. But there's been this thing of oh, we don't want men's opinion, and I'm just like, okay, I can understand that, but at the same time, I'm like, you're just being, you're excluding people by doing that.
And it's unfortunate because most of the time, when a man is going, or anyone who is going to read a romance novel cover to cover and properly analyze it and have a real opinion of it, is going to be someone who's going to understand someone else's opinion. It's not someone who takes that amount of time and that amount of care to enjoy a book like that is not going to be logging into your Facebook saying, "Let me tell you about the female orgasm." It's not.
No.
It's not going to be that kind of thing.
No, and I think that books should be talking about your own personal enjoyment of them as opposed to, and I think everyone's personal enjoyment of a book is valid, whether you're a man or a woman. And that I think that we should be more welcoming as a community of romance writers and readers and open. And it's like, if we want to be respected as a community and romance writers by men and the outside world, then we should be more inclusive, like, in my opinion. And I don't think that we are. Like, I'm just going to put that out. I don't think that there is. I don't think that the community has made it a safe space for men to be involved, because it's seen as, it's a woman's thing. This is our thing. This is ours. And I'm just like, we live in a world where we want to be equal, and by excluding an entire sex just because they have a penis or whatever, or maybe not, just because they're men, is just doing the same. It's doing the same thing that has been done to us for centuries, like since the dawn of fucking humanity. And I'm like, why? You're just making the same mistake by being excluding other people, and I don't like that. But then again, I don't like anyone being excluded based on stupid shit like their sex, age, gender, whatever, sexuality. You know, that's me though. That because I don't think people should be judged on those things. But hey, that's just my opinion.
Real bold stance there.
Well, it is, but I've been raised as to not see those. Well, obviously I see those things because I'm not fucking blind, but I was raised not to see that shit, or not to judge people on those things. If that makes sense. It's not that I don't see it; it's that I don't judge anyone. I judge people who they are inside, as opposed to their outward appearance, or. For the most part, I mean, yeah, I'll probably judge you if you're wearing bad shoes, but that's neither here nor there. I have a thing about shoes, okay, people? Sorry, Sarah's getting opinionated today. I'm gonna shut up now. But, you know, I don't think we as a romance community help ourselves really by being excluding other people, if that makes sense. That's all I was really trying to say.
And you know, I already agree. It's literally just something that came to my mind.
Yeah.
When I think about the community and I guess when I've seen, I see it's quite a lot of tweets about romance and it being trashy and happily ever afters, and it's majority of the time a lot of women going at men who are either stirring the pot or you know, they genuinely just have their own opinion, and it just made me think, is it, you know, it can be quite intimidating. It can be is there such a thing as that, which is probably why it is probably a contribution as to why there are secret in the shadow male readers, because of that, maybe.
I agree. I think there's a stigma behind it, and I think that needs to be addressed. But hey, we're only a couple of people. Can we really change the world? No. That's why I think it's like good that I did, like, when obviously we've talked about the fact that how I got Matt to start reviewing my books. I was actually really pleased to find that there was someone who was a guy who wanted to read it. So that's why I was like, yes, I'm going to give you my advanced reviews of these books, because I was like, yes, I want men to read my books.
Do you not have other male people in your review team?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know what. If I don't really want to.
No, I
judge
understand what you're saying.
judge the person on what their name is. However, I think that majority of them are women, and that's fine because, you know, what can I do? I can't go and like force my books down men's throats. Like that's not. But I was happy to get a male reader, you know, because I was like, yeah, this will tell me if I'm actually writing men properly or men, you know. Which apparently I am, so that's all good. But I just think I was welcoming of it because I think that men should read romance, or at least some. You know, if you want to read romance, go ahead and read it. If you're a guy, like you shouldn't be made to feel like it's not something that you can read. Is what I'm kind of saying. So yeah, doing my little bit here to try and encourage men to read romance.
That's actually kind of interesting. I made an assumption that you had more male readers than the average romance author, particularly because, and this is not just you, but another point I can make is having a male POV, either switching back and forth, or half a book, or what have you, or even if you did the whole book, that would be even more bold. But having that male POV really does help, because having it just from the female lead's perspective leaves a lot of room for. Also, it hurts the writing quality if I have to judge what the man thinks through the female's head. Something usually gets lost in translation there. So I think having more focus on male point of view in a romance novel is going to help a male reader enjoy it more.
I think that's become like a big thing in romance in general, is that people want the other POV. They don't just want the woman's POV. Now, a lot of romance readers that I know say the same thing. They're like, I don't want to just read the female POV. And I actually don't like books that only have one point of view most of the time these days, because I want to see in the other person's head. Because because it's more balanced that way. And also I think I find that you can relate to that character more if you see inside their head, and then you can tell. And it's as a writer, and if I look at it as from a writer's point of view, you can tell more of the story if you have both points of view. You can give a deeper story that way. So I'm glad to know that contributes to helping men read my books.
It also sets things up nicely, especially to develop the male character, because not to keep getting sexual, but a one night stand being viewed differently by the female and the male is certainly, it develops a lot of good conflict, sets a lot of things up, foreshadowing. It's I don't see why everyone doesn't write like that.
That's true. I guess some people are like scared to write from the opposite sex, and we've actually talked about this on the podcast before. And I think it's something you have to learn how to do. And I think more people should learn how to do it if you're going to want to encourage. If people want to start encouraging male readers, then people should be writing both points of view. But hey, there you go. You heard it here, guys. Write more books from both POVs.
Or both, all five, whatever the situation.
All five, yes. Yes, in the case of Sarah and her reverse harem. You know what, actually, most reverse harems I've read do not include every single POV. Some of them only include a couple of POVs, and that annoys me. So I'm like, why don't you...
What are the other ones just mindless dick?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, do these people have an opinion? Like, I want to know all of the characters, not just one of them. Anyway, sorry. If you're going to write, like, a multiple point of view book that has... Yeah. Anyway. Sab, what do you think?
Well, I 100% love multiple POVs because I really want to know these characters. I want to know both of them. I want to know the guy and the girl. I think so I think when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I used to read quite a few romance books where it was just told in the woman's point of view, and I think with that is it's so difficult because you're at risk of getting really annoyed with her and just her and how she interprets things, because often the guy will do something and you find yourself thinking, well, why did he do that? it doesn't help that you can't get into his mind and know that there was a legit reason as to why he did what he did. And I think I found, because of some of these books that are told in just a single POV, and that's always the woman's point of view, because I've not come across a book yet where it's just being told in the male point of view. Whoa, no, that'll be amazing.
No, I've told you about this book, so I'm not going to go into it again.
Oh, come on, you tell me about so many books. I don't remember, but yeah. No, what often happens is, or what I've found actually recently is books where I've read where it's just the female's point of view. The author's been quite sneaky in posting on their website the male point of view, like certain chapters from a book, and all of her readers went crazy for it, and I found myself going on her website regularly just to see his point of view, even though I know the story already. It's just very different, and there's something great about being able to go into his mind and see from his perspective how he perceived everything around him. But then she didn't do the whole thing, and it really upset me. So yeah, I kind of make it a rule where I don't often pick up books where it's just the woman's point of view, because I find myself feeling a little bit like I want more.
You're only being told half of the story, really.
Yeah, there's something missing when I come across a story like that, you know. Maybe that's just me, but it's just how I feel.
Have you read any romance books that have only one POV, Matt? Without?
Oh yeah, I certainly have, and there tend to be ones that I favor the least, because they do that sort of thing where they want to get the opinions or feelings of the male character, but they try to do it through the female, and it makes the female character seem like a bitch, because she's like, now she's almost like she's telling the man how to think by telling me, the reader, as it just doesn't flow very well that way.
No, I completely agree. I don't enjoy it anymore. I really actually hate it. if I pick up a book that doesn't have that's actually a full romance book, and it doesn't have the both point of views, then I'm just like, no, thank you. It will be a din. I won't even read it, because I just don't like that anymore. I just don't find it enjoyable. And I agree with Sab. I find the female leads in that are really like overly judgy and then just irritating.
Very, 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 very irritated. I'm so sorry. It's all just coming out now, because I'm just starting to think back to things that I've read, and it's just been really frustrating as fuck, because it's just been frustrating.
Well, apparently we can safely say that it's not just mansplaining, there's also womansplaining as well in books.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I'm just going to say that. I think we've established that I hate anything that's not equal. Anyway, so yeah, has anyone else got any other topics they'd like to bring up in this realm? Putting it out there?
I think we've got it pretty well covered. You've got
Yeah.
a lot of good ideas to try to hopefully welcome more men in. It's
true. It's true. I hope
Thanks
so.
to you. I mean, it'd be great. Like, just getting your insight and getting a guy's point of view. It's wonderful, actually. It's quite refreshing. When Sarah told me that she had a guy reading her books, I was like, wow, that's amazing. That's like, it's kind of like unheard of. It's just really cool. Really cool.
Well, hopefully we can start a trend.
I hope so. Yeah,
cool.
We can be like the you heard it here on the Main Romance podcast. No. Okay, well, that just about wraps up our discussion of men reading romance. So we'd like to say a massive thank you to Matt for coming on our podcast, because we've been meaning to get him on for like a long time since we started. So thank you, Matt. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Well, glad you had fun. Okay, guys, so that was the Men in Romance podcast, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.